Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we'll have a talk about a Linux project, a distribution, desktop environment, or application. We also chat about anything from the community that has, news, topics, musings, anything that is Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, and I've got a great panel of people. I've got Eric, Colin, Sravan, Dale from Low Tech Linux fame, and Mr. Ben of the StormOS dev
team.
Wait, what was his syndicate? Syndicate?
Syndicate, yeah, just call it that, I guess.
So
how's it going, folks?
G'day all.
How are you, Nate? I heard you're not feeling so well.
Yeah, a little. I'm on the rebound, but kind of in that exhausted phase of it. The old plague came through and wiped me out this week. So
He went totally off the grid.
I did. So
Plague, huh?
yeah,
Hate when that happens.
it's terrible. So I spent most of it sleeping. I basically sent my boss a message saying I can't look at my computer screen. It's like it's stabbing me in the face. It's one of those. You had those before, and so there was nothing productive was going to come out of me. And I I'll get some rest. Feel good, feel great, whatever. So anyway, be sure to do that straw poll if you have not done so. Because on the docket for tonight we're doing a news flight night. So we're going to any kind of nifty
news you want to throw down
nifty
there.
news from the network of news nits. I don't know. Anyway, out there that I got a pretty long list of things we're trying to get through today. We'll see how it goes. And
We
if
may
you
not
have
get
any
to all of it.
if you have any suggestions,
Sorry.
please feel free to you can contribute. Yes, Chris, the YouTube app won't let you @ people on the phone app. It doesn't work for me either. So, but if you have any new suggestions or something, feel free to share any topics you might have there. And actually, the Telegram is a great place to share news topics as well. That's where we normally pull from, and that's my favorite place. I know some people like the Discord better. I like the Telegram. Anyway,
We all have our opinions, Nate.
we do, and they all stink. So just as long as you recognize that from the get-go, then you're good to go.
Of course.
So, but first, what have we been doing in Linux and tech? I have a little bit of a story for you. No, we don't have a Jinda. Oh man, just realized Jinda's not here. Last Sunday, so the day after the last Linux Saloon, I heard a little bit of a humming sound coming from my framework, from the fan. I'm like, oh, this is. I probably need to take it apart and clean it. And one of the most beautiful things about the framework laptop is that it's really easy to work on. You can just take, it's easy to open up, then you can clean it and do whatever. So I opened it up, blew it out, and it wasn't just lightly, and nothing came of it. And so I took it to the air compressor out here, and I ended up breaking like a quarter of the fans in my framework, and so it was like a catastrophic. Oh, rat! One of those things.
Oh, dang.
So,
Wow.
I'm like, what am I going to do? Because that framework is my primary machine. Like, all my work is done on there, whether it's for the company I work for. Yeah, Eris couldn't be here tonight. Schickel's probably got important things to do. I think he's so anyway, so I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I need my framework now, right? So I essentially I robbed from another framework that I have, like the one that's a 3D printed pink terminal looking machine. I actually took that apart, pulled the fan out, stuck it in here. Everything's fine. But I learned a couple lessons in the whole thing. So number one, you probably shouldn't use compressed air that would use to clean machined parts, not quite as powerful of air. That's number one.
Well, if nothing else, even if you don't break the tines, you could overspin the bearings.
Right.
If you. So anyway,
This is one of those things where I guess what you're saying is, Eric, you live and you learn.
Right, and also
Yeah,
you
I've
could
been
probably
there, brother.
backfeed also the
Mhm.
board too, and that could be bad. You could probably blow out circuits on the board, which I didn't do that. Thankfully, I guess I so rapidly blew the fins apart that there was no um,
Oh, damn.
none of that. And but the other thing I learned too is, I really should have a backup plan for my primary machine. I kind of did for a while, but so I actually then started making a point this week. Well, okay, I was sick this week, but on Sunday and Monday after I put the framework back together, which now I have one in pieces, which I got to fix that. But I think I'm gonna make some modifications. But I got to think about that one.
Mhm.
So now I have I have to really work at putting together a machine so that I do actually have an actual pickup backup. Like if this machine's not available for whatever reason, something goes haywire on it, I have an active backup that has all of my connections and so forth. And so I think I'm about 90% there. There are a couple of little things I don't have, but I have my notes backed up on there. I got all my remote connections copied over there. Ramina, whatever it's called that I use. You can just copy that folder over and you're good to go of all the different connections, and it has them all organized the same, so it wasn't like I'd have to copy them one at a time. And then I think the only thing that I don't have on there, I don't really know if there's anything I don't have on there now. It might be like just some annoying things.
Are you manually copying or using something like SyncThing?
SyncThing. Yeah, everything's synced over, like data wise.
That's what I
I'm using OneDrive on the back end anyway, so that's not a big deal for data. All the data, that's fine. OneDrive for work.
Good.
And then Ramina, that's my RDP client. All that's copied over. I have all the software is in parity, so Teams, Outlook is all set up on it's a Linux machine, don't worry. And openSUSE, Tumbleweed, by the way, Chris, in case you're going to start heckling me from the chat. And everything. So everything's all set there, and I think we're good to go. So I do have an active backup that I can use at any point in time. Anyway, so it was kind of like a moment of like reflection of like, oh boy, something in my IT plan that I did not have prepared. I had to very rapidly became aware of that in a fleeting moment.
Yeah. I think of that myself. I mean, I do have a good enough backup for my laptop, but some things on my desktop I don't have, any way to really reproduce that. I'd have to run it off of another, like a laptop or something. But really the one that bugs me is my wife. She's using one of my gaming laptops from, I'm not kidding, like that thing must be like 8-9 years old at this point, maybe even a little older. It still runs really well. She uses an external monitor and keyboard and everything, so she doesn't really use it as a laptop. It's just might as well be a desktop, honestly. Just the fact that it's portable and we could pick it up and take it with us is the advantage. But that thing, she's been using it for a long time. I back up all the files, but I don't have like the software installed somewhere else. So she uses, CorelDRAW and some other things, and I would have to redeploy that somewhere. And yeah, I just don't have a good solution for that. And so I do kind of a little bit of a nail biter. Hopefully it doesn't go south.
Is that that's licensed software, the CorelDRAW, right? So you'd have to probably limit on the number of licenses you can have for that.
Yeah, and she actually has an old version that she's been holding on to because she prefers it, and so it would even be probably more difficult. I do have the installation disc as a separate DVD, and also I do have the DVD ripped as an ISO file, so you can actually just mount it as a virtual CD-ROM. So I have some different ways of around fairly quickly redeploying it, but yeah, it would just be, it would be the type of thing that of course it would go when I'm not here or I'm somewhere where I'm just not able to respond, and it would be, more than maybe just a day that she'd have to wait or something. And yeah, so I do kind of think that's a bit of a bit of a like oversight for me right now. I don't have a good plan. And short of buying a second laptop like you've got as a way to just, hot swap it, I don't know that I have any real great solution.
It's something to think about, like how wrapped up you get into your primary machine for certain tasks.
Yeah.
Like, and how much you have to do just to transition to another one. I think I got things down pretty well. Like my machine here. I mean, I suppose I could actually do everything on this machine out here, but I don't have it. This is not tied into anything work related. This is completely separate. This is my own, this is Cubicle Labs property, not processing plant property. And so I don't want to put stuff on there that doesn't belong, but I do think that lost my train of thought. I could probably, if I had to in a pinch, I could move everything over to this if I had to. And I could work back here pretty nicely, but it's just not as convenient as my workstation.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. But anyway, so I just want to share my little, hey, I broke my framework. This is my cautionary tale. And you can check out if you would like to see on cubiclenate.com, I have my tale of tinkering tech, a framework fiasco, as it's called. And I tried to make it, somewhat amusing, as far as unnecessary usage of alliterations and so forth, because that makes me laugh. So anytime I can, and if I can poke at myself, all the better. All right, just a couple more moments. We have not done that straw poll. The link is in the YouTube. It is do you or have you used Pi-hole or some other equivalent like AdGuard at home? So if you're not familiar with what those are, you probably aren't. If you know what those are, in fact, I started using it because of you, Eric. You're the one back in 2019, I think, when we started talking about it. I think that's when I started, yeah. And it's been great. And in fact, what it does for filtering out just the cruft of the internet.
Yeah. And it really, it works. It works because of crowdsourcing, because there are kind individuals who are putting together these block lists that make it possible for us to just benefit from that. Yeah.
So I'm actually transitioning how I'm going to be using it. So I'm going to be moving it to a Docker image instead of a Pi-hole or a Raspberry Pi. So although right now I have it shut down because I'm rearranging some of my rack, and I'll have it back up probably this week at some point in time.
I'll be curious to hear how that goes.
Yeah. So
is there a reason you're switching from the Pi to another way of doing it?
Just because I'm playing with Docker, Podman. That's really the only reason. There's not it's just a managing. I have a server that I've really beefed up to be doing a lot of things, and I think I may as well just have it do more because it can. It's largely not as well employed as it should be. So that's the only reason why. And also I want my Raspberry Pi back.
Oh, which Raspberry Pi have you been using?
A 3.
Oh, okay, that's what I have. I mean, a 3 or a 3B?
Well, 3B plus or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Oh, where did it go? You said you wanted it back.
Yeah, I want it back to play with it, do other things with it.
Oh, where is it now?
It's on my server rack.
Oh, okay.
I even made a rack mount for it and everything. I spent a lot of time making it, and now I'm going to... So I have other things I want to do with it, and I just want to, free it from the mundane duty of the Pi-hole business and move it on to, other things. That's all. It's not really... It's not like the Pi-hole is not doing its job. Or it's not that the Raspberry Pi is not able to do the job. It's just that I just want it back. That's literally all it is. So, all right. So I guess we'll get to the straw poll. There should be enough time. Hit the refresh one more time. So the question was, do you or have you used Pi-hole or some other equivalent like AdGuard at home? And for top
I can
votes.
take the poll.
Okay, go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, we got 27 votes. And the top is yes and still use it by 55%. And then the next followed by yes and no longer use it by 22%. And no and I'm not interested, which is 14% or 4 votes. No, but I'm interested in trying is 2 votes.
Damn.
And I fall in the category of no and I'm not interested. So for me, I have ad blocks on all my browsers, even on my phone and my tablets. So I never really had the motivation to set it up. So what are the advantages of having like a whole like home wide ad blocker rather than having them on browsers?
So and Eric can probably speak better to this than me because he's one that sold me on it to begin with. But in a nutshell, you have, depending on how many items you have in your home network, how many, let's say, if you have things like Roku's or Fire TVs, a lot of other things, they're constantly phoning home, like sending ad information, like doing nefarious things that you don't want them to do, and so it helps to block all that, and then it trims down a lot of the DNS requests. So
it's a bit of a mind-blowing experience if you've never looked at the traffic on your home network to hook up something like Pi-hole, because it just basically does a survey of all of the traffic that's happening. And yeah, it is absolutely astounding how frequently Roku and things like that are just pinging back, constantly sending metadata and, information about what's happening on the device. And it's just this, I mean, the amount of data that must be streaming into their data centers or wherever those apps are located, it has got to be phenomenal, because just from my one device, there would literally be thousands of those events per day. And so, I mean, obviously, if you extrapolate that out across the number of devices they have deployed, I mean, it's just staggering. But yeah, and I wasn't too happy to find out how much of that information was being teleported back to them. So yeah, you can block all that. And so even if you don't care about ad blocking necessarily, you can at least have control over what your devices are doing. And so then secondarily, yeah, it would be ad blocking. So you can, have different block lists. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. You basically choose to subscribe or import block lists, and it will keep them up to date by refreshing them, going out and updating them periodically. But those lists are really the secret, because all of the it's basically a blacklist approach where everything that's listed would be essentially the DNS stops it from being able to resolve to the actual address. It repoints the DNS to like localhost or, a non-existent address basically. So that means that if you actively try to go to one, you're going to get, like a 404 or whatever. But if you passively are getting add images or add content, like let's say in an email or in a web page, you just won't see it. Like it just blocks it. And the effect of that is it actually saves a lot of bandwidth. So depending on your connection, you could notice a pretty significant difference, not only in the just responsiveness, but also just the time it takes for pages to load and things like that. So it has a lot of advantages, and just one of those things that I think is pretty achievable by most people, even someone who's not particularly, tech savvy. You can go through the instructions and get it up and running, and I think most people would have a good experience with that.
That's pretty cool. So so that I can understand it better, like let's say, for instance, I get one of those Walmart TVs. They're a nice price, and I want to make sure that they're not sharing what I'm watching on the screen with the internet or whatever, however that works. This would be a way to block that nonsense from happening.
Yeah, because basically what you do is you set your DNS. So on your router, you would set the local DNS, basically the DHCP DNS that you're assigned to the Pi, to the Pi hole. And that means that you're going to see all of those DNS requests come through. So even if at first you're not blocking them, you at least see the traffic. And almost certainly the highest traffic, or the most traffic you're going to see if you look at it by device, are going to be little IoT devices or little things like the Roku or the smart TVs, things like that. They're very chatty. They're constantly pinging out. Other things you'll see if you have an Ubuntu distro, there's a web check, a connectivity check that it does pretty frequently. So you see that happening a lot of times. And that's not a tracking thing, but it's just a lot of chatter. And so I end up disabling that in my Ubuntu clients. So it's just a way for you to get a much more clear sense of what's happening. And then you can, once you've had that information, it's a lot easier to make a decision on, what you like and don't like. And I had to, now if you were just sort of hardcore, no ads, no, websites of a particular type, like there's the block list basically tailored to different needs and, ways that you want to run your network. Mine was a little too restrictive. So like things that my wife would get, basically like marketing email from like businesses that she wanted to see their content. A lot of times those businesses would have been blocked, or let's say the carrier, the CDN or something like that, where they were hosting the data would have been blocked because they're used by marketers and stuff that people would consider spam in some cases. So I had to actually like whitelist a bunch of stuff for her because she noticed whenever I turned it on, she's like, none of my emails are working. And so, yeah, I had to change and whitelist some things. And actually, I think I ended up using a different block list because it was just too restrictive, and I backed it off a little bit. But you can also create different pools as well. So I could have had her in one group where there were, let's say less specific or less strict rules, and then had other devices on other more strict rules as well. If it's fairly granular, you can make it complicated if you want, but it's also pretty straightforward to just set up a straight up, like this is a, default block list that I'm using. And then if you happen to see things that don't work properly, then you can come back and check, see if they're being blocked, and then add them to the whitelist if you need to. So it takes a little bit of time to kind of tweak it to get it just right. Nate, I'm sure you probably remember that, or maybe it's been easier to use
That's
than that.
cool. I mean, I like that the fact that it does that, because if it's saving you bandwidth, it's like if you have like your internet is not as fast as you'd like it to be. I mean, it gives
Exactly.
that a break. If you
Or
have
if you're
an
paying
older,
for the amount that you use, yeah.
aha. I'm also thinking if you have an older device, sometimes they don't have the best connection to the Wi-Fi either. I have that problem with my T420. And so I'm seeing practical uses, for the pie hole, and just thinking in terms of how to set all this up once I get further situated.
Yeah, I think the big thing is if you're at all metered, you're paying extra for things you don't want and things that are essentially, I will say, harmful. And also, if you have a limited pipeline, you need to be able to manage that to the best of your, be as efficient with that as possible. And so you need to block a lot of the cruft that's coming through as well. And I noticed it improved things on my network substantially just by adding the pie hole. Like, I mean, it made a difference just using the network here. Now, if I could install a pie hole on my minivan with a hotspot in there, that would be the cat's pajamas, but I don't have the ability to hack the DNS servers that AT&T has built into the nonsense there. But I would like
You
that.
made me think of something. I would like to do it, like, let's say I did this with my phone, because a lot of times if you go over a certain, like for T-Mobile, you go over 50 gigs, then they'll non-prioritize your data and do all the other dumb stuff. And I mean, I think this would be a good way to, if at all possible, to
There
make
might
life
be
easier on that as well.
there might be other solutions for like single client like that. Pi-hole and AdGuard is more for like a network wide
Yeah.
Okay.
usage.
And
Yeah, no.
that's actually the good part is that it is network wide. So you can certainly, and I would say for a device like a phone or something, there are just local packages you can use that will do the same thing like Nate's saying. I mean, think of like uBlock, but you would just have it on the best ones would be a device level, and those can be tricky with non-root. So again, maybe using something external is a little easier, but either if you have root, then you can have ones that are a little more like deeply rooted and can actually block all the internet traffic on your device, whereas some of them are just going to be like for the web browser, stuff like that. So you'd still have like ads coming through games, stuff like that. So so that's where maybe something like Pi-hole would be useful, or more useful at least.
Mm-hmm.
Plus you're adding that processing to the device, and if it's not a particularly powerful device, that could add enough overhead that it slows things down.
And part of the reason I want to move off of the Raspberry Pi, not that it's necessarily taxed, but those SD cards only last so long, and single board computers are great. They're fun. They're good for like, I don't say it, like they're good for like testing something or for proving something out, but I don't know how good they are for like long-term solutions. Although I shouldn't say that because I'm using Pis in actual production environments, so that's not necessarily true. But if there's like a lot of data, they're not doing a lot of data. They're just basically doing a very simple function, not storing anything. So, but like the Pi-hole is doing a lot, and so you're gonna burn through those SD cards unless you get a really good one, and then it lasts years upon years, which may be fine. But I figure I'm just gonna use the server. I've got the space, I got the computational power. I may as well get something else to do so it doesn't get bored and like start trying to take over the world. Yeah, cool.
I hate when that happens.
I do too. Rotten machines.
So you said you still use it on the Pi right now, and then you're going to change it to a Docker.
Yeah, I'm going to change it to Docker.
Are you going to do a tech pad about it?
Probably, yeah. I'll probably write about it. See
how.
I
would like to see how you do that.
I did deploy some Docker images on a specific VM on a production side for Rust Desk in the Texas facility that I work. So I can manage machines that are segregated away from the scary internet. So, because we don't want to use remote management services that are that use the internet to get to a machine that is segregated from the internet, because then we have to create pathways, and I don't want to play those silly games with the firewall. So I thought it'd be safer just totally air gap it, basically. Not fully air gapped, but largely air gapped. A tortured path, as it were.
Well, I've actually stopped using mine simply because of what I was mentioning earlier with my wife and having so many restrictions, and ended up being a pain. And frankly, she didn't really want the filtering when it came down to it. She was just like, you know what, don't bother blocking my stuff. It doesn't bother me if I see ads and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I kind of stopped supporting it from that. So that's why if you do it as a Docker, I may want to have it deployed like on my desktop or something.
Okay. Yeah, because then you have to use it as a DNS basically. Or what you could do, you could actually set it up as, instead of, you could probably set up different DNS rules per computer, honestly, and then that would solve that problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually have done that in the past too, where I just wanted my machines to benefit from it, so I would just manually manually enter the DNS instead of having it pick up from DHCP. Yeah, but it still doesn't solve the Roku and that sort of stuff, which I think I'd rather just go back to running Pi-hole. But the one inconvenience, honestly, I mean, I guess you can have Wi-Fi, but I wouldn't necessarily want Wi-Fi to run something like Pi-hole off of like a Raspberry Pi. But, when you deploy a Raspberry Pi, it's just like deploying any computer. You have to have a place to plug it in. You have to have a network drop for it. You have to have space, and, not that it's taking up a lot, but it's another physical thing versus if I can just have it as a Docker image or, a Docker container just running, that might be a better solution. So if you do it, I wouldn't mind if you wrote it up. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. So like I have OpenSense as my firewall system now, and it's a little bit different. That's the setup there is a little bit different, but it's not. I mean, it's not that.
Did you write about that?
I've only written about one aspect of it. I haven't like gone through the entire setup process of it. But I converted these old WatchGuard firewall systems that are like that were in the plant that are no longer functional for production use.
Oh, yeah.
So I took those, slammed some more RAM in there, and put an SSD in there, replaced the compact flash with that. But to install it, I had to use a serial interface. So I had to use Minicom to do the installation, which was kind of fun. To figuring out the actual the baud rate and everything else, that was the trickiest part. Really not a big deal, but once you understood, like,
I haven't done that in such a long time.
Yeah, it was. I think that sort of stuff is fun to tinker around with, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, but it works great. It's a device that has multiple NICs on it that you can do a lot of things with. And it's made as a network appliance. You know, is it top of the line? No. Is it as good as anything I would get for the home anyway? Probably. Yeah. So, you know, it'll basically last forever. No one's auditing the age of my equipment in my house. And
well, is it better if it's older? I mean, that's a plus, not a.
I think so. You know, some people have a 57 Chevy and are proud of that. I have a, circa 2012 WatchGuard firewall appliance. You know, I'm like, ooh, look at that. Look at that.
WatchGuard, those appliances were very expensive. I remember looking at them. Yeah, because they were great. I mean, certainly at the time they were like the best thing you could get.
Yeah.
So,
and
at least at the level that I was looking. Yeah.
And it looks cool too. So, there's that.
And the idea that you're right, because it's an appliance that is the dual NIC, and I mean it's purpose built for that. So that's awesome. And I had the same situation where things would just not be used anymore, and I would try to either sell them or because it's amazing how many people would just throw that kind of stuff in a dumpster, like straight up just toss it. And I saved a lot of stuff like that, KVM switches and just different kind of servers, like freestanding servers, and and a lot of times I'd have to find a use for it to justify being taking up space, but still access to equipment you would never buy or have at home.
Right. And it's just basically garbage. I think how many interfaces it actually has. I think it has like eight or nine NICs. 8 NICs, I think. Yeah, I don't need that many. But I could do like bonded connections then, like so I have multiple internet providers. That was the idea. So I think I have I have cell phone. I think I'm going to add like Starlink and then just bond them so that if as satellites drop out or whatever, or as the cell tower decides it's going to stop being, as how many times has that happened on Linux Saloon, something like that might be handy. Anyway, and the new OpenSense dashboard is super cool too. It's actually much nicer than what even WatchGuard has today, in my opinion. Just the statistics it gives you and the real-time graphs or near real-time graphs, super fun. Yep.
Yeah, I love a real-time line graph.
Yeah, it's just fun. So I guess we should go ahead and get to the news. Sravan, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, speaking of Pi-hole, there's a new news in the Pi-hole space. Pi-hole 6 is here, and the tagline is now faster, smarter, and more secure. So it brings a new embedded web server, REST API, native HTTPS support, overhauled UI, and more. And their Docker image is now based on Alpine Linux instead of Debian. And if you already have a bare metal install, you can just type, a Pi-hole up to update after backing up your configurations.
Yeah, it looks the picture looks the same, but that's excellent. And I see if you go down, they have an updated Docker documentation as well. So I just clicked on that, and I will got that saved. It gives you a Docker compose file right there. So basically, I just have to copy that, and then do the Docker compose. I think I can just say Docker, like, because I'm using Podman on my server. I think I can still just use Docker compose, just like a symlink over. So it should be the same. And then
It's just interesting that they talk about a revamped UI, because I thought that their UI is actually pretty solid, believe it, you know. I guess be curious to see like what they changed and like specifically why, but yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, this gives me even more incentive to want to try it as a Docker image. Cool. Good stuff. So I saw the second story earlier, and I read about it, and I completely agree. So the gist being that the GNOME Foundation get rid of that foot icon. I don't have a problem with them keeping it, but the reasoning that they gave for wanting to get rid of it is actually really good, because it's almost impossible to make into a square. And then just sort of the usability of like the coloration and the visibility they're just not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think anyone's calling for them to not use a foot, but probably just do something more modern. So
well, I was reading a bit further down on that story, and they were saying that they're looking at maybe in the future making it a mascot. But you know, one thing I didn't know is it's actually shaped like a G. Did anyone know that? It's meant to have the shape of a G. So if you look at the foot itself, it's actually shaped like a G. But that I never knew that till I read that story. So that's interesting.
And honestly, without the toes, it's actually kind of a cool like G shape for, GNOME.
Yeah.
But they could, remedy it in a lot of different ways. But the biggest one, and this is just from a web design standpoint, is when you have a logo that makes it difficult to make it into a square. I mean, at least it's not like a horizontal logo that you'd have to like add a lot of padding to. This isn't too bad, but in the world of like, iconography like that, it's just not a great shape for it. So I think there's probably a lot of ways that you can just reincorporate it, have it still look like the G foot that's always been there, but have it conform to better design standards.
I kind of like it.
Problems these are the problems that Cassidy says he puts up here. I'll just read the headlines. It doesn't convey anything about the GNOME project. It's an awkward shape that doesn't fit cleanly into a square or circle, which Eric was talking about. It is actively off-putting and unappealing. It raises the question of what the role of the design team is. So, what can we do is another heading further down. It says, phase the foot out from anything remaining user-facing spaces, commission a new brand logo, refresh the official GNOME brand guidelines, immortalize the foot as a mascot, and stretch goal is to title case GNOME as a brand name. So there's some of the points that he put forward. So interesting story, I must say.
Yeah.
Nate likes it. You like the foot, Nate?
Yeah, I kind of like it. Maybe I'm a contrarian, and I just like, I don't know, it's fine. I mean, I like it better than the cashew. The plasma cashew.
What's the cashew? The plasma cashew.
I mean, I like cashews, but this at least says something. Like, what does a cashew have to do with plasma? I don't know. I mean, they don't do that anymore, so it's not really a thing anymore. But Conky used to be the mascot for Plasma. I think that was. I happen to like lizards. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I had no idea. No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Is that a green lizard on the screen?
maybe the foot's that old, it's got plantar fasciitis and they need to get rid of it.
That
Maybe
could be,
that's
yeah.
the problem.
It's getting a little. The
Yeah,
foot's getting a little funky.
I honestly could see them just finding a way to make it fit those goals, honestly. And then, I just don't think it would be an issue for them to just make a small change to it. I mean, basically, they've been getting a lot of influx of money. I mean, I would think that the way that they just modernized their website. I don't know if anyone's looked at it recently, but yeah, gnome.org is they've updated it to be more sort of they still don't do a great job of like saying what it is. I mean, they call it an independent computing platform. Like, what the hell does that mean? More elegant way to use your computer. There's still a lot of that sort of marketing nothing speak in here. But yeah, the way that they've redone the website, I think, sort of lends towards a better, visual design. Because they're going to change the font they're using finally. Because I've hated that font for years, and it's like one of the first things I do is change it. So there are some things that they are going to modernize and change, and so I would think the icon could certainly be part of that work. So, but that's always an opinionated thing. Some people really love, the visual representation of something, and it just sort of sticks with them. And if you change it in any way, it doesn't look the same, or it doesn't invoke the same memories, or however someone is attached to something. And of course, desktop
It's a
environments
hard
can
one to
invoke-
change if you ask. It's a really hard one to change if you ask me, to be honest. To represent the desktop that's had that logo for such a long time. Sean says amputate the toes.
Yeah,
Probably,
or find a way to
it's
just
probably
pull
not a
them
bad
down.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, all right.
Sean also says,
So
I'll
why
ask from
don't we-
GNOME at this point is bring back the system tray, end rant.
Well, you can do that very easily, and I think that's I like the fact that what I'd like them to see them really do is to support extension developers better, because the truth is almost no distribution outside of Fedora ships without some sort of extensions.
openSUSE.
Yeah.
Do they really?
Yeah. They
Okay.
in Tumbleweed they ship it basically vanilla.
Okay. But
Which I
a lot of
kind
other
of
ones don't.
I kind of appreciate though, because then you know this is what the GNOME developers want.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. That's my opinion,
Well,
but
I personally think the GNOME developers are happy having a very simple desktop and configuration and layout, because it makes it easier for them to develop on that core without having to then do all this extra effort of testing different potential configurations and things. So from a development strategy, I mean, it makes sense, but it would be better if they were just a little more cognizant or supportive of the extension developers, because again, I think most people using GNOME are using at least some extensions.
Like
'cause
my
they-
personal
Oh, cool.
opinion, but if a project is as big as GNOME and there's so many users and most users want some features, some of it should be in the main GNOME thing instead of being extensions. Or extensions have to be official if there's such a large user base.
Yeah.
This is my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I don't think it would be that difficult for them to, let's say, the most widely used, because I mean, the truth is there are hundreds of extensions, maybe even thousands, but the vast majority of people who are using extensions are using the same 5 or even 10.
Yes.
Like,
Same 5
because
or 3.
Yeah, because it's the ones, the functionality that everyone agrees is missing, which is a dock of some kind, tray icons, and then maybe desktop icons if people care about that. So there's really a very small group of extensions that they would have to take into consideration. But I think if they were to make some unit tests for those and then just include them as part of the development effort to see like, oh, wow, dash to dock is broken, that's probably going to make a bad experience for a lot of users because literally millions of our users are using that specific extension.
And the issue with extensions, especially for a distro like Arch, is that they break all the time because you get constant updates.
Yeah,
So there's
that's
no
true.
point like having extensions unless you're like really focused on not updating or holding back.
Very
It's
true.
not recommended in a distro
Yeah.
like Arch.
Yeah.
So that's why I never use GNOME. I never recommend on any forum I'm a part of use GNOME because
But that's a very
I
personal
don't.
thing, man.
No, it's because again, as you say, you can't use it without extensions. Like most people can't use it without extensions, and extensions are
argue
broken
that's-
on Arch.
Yeah.
So basically,
Yeah.
I'm active on AerynOS forums, so I don't recommend because I know it's broken. Why would I recommend?
That's I guess it's arguable.
I sort of agree with that in a way, in a sense, because you're going to have people coming back to EndeavourOS saying this is not working, this extension's not working, and it's just one of those things that people don't need hassles with because it's really not part of the GNOME desktop because they keep breaking the extensions, and I've experienced that many times, and then why do you need the hassle of these people coming back? You know, with all these issues, which are not part of the desktop, it's just one of those. This is where Cosmic comes into play, isn't it? Because Cosmic will probably, I can just see people adopting Cosmic for their desktops in the future, because I think it's going to have maybe a lot of those things that GNOME doesn't.
Well, they're making Cosmic to be sort of modular, and in the sense that they're kind of expecting. They're kind of expecting people to take that as a base and then more or less build on top of it if they want to have some sort of bespoke.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's sort of being built that way to begin with. And I think because they have that mindset, right, to begin with, if someone does take it in the future when it's released and does something like that with it, I would find it hard to believe that System 76 would be nearly as hard to work with as GNOME has been, where they've just basically buried their heads in the sand and said, no, we don't care if it all breaks, because you shouldn't be doing it anyway. Yet we're going to allow you to do it. And we have a whole ecosystem around it. And there's dedicated website. It's just a very silly sort of look the other way, pretend it's not happening, except that it is happening. So the best case, I think, and I agree, Arch or a rolling distro would probably be the worst case scenario because of the malleability and moving pieces. But when you have a distro like Ubuntu, whose extensions are something they provide first party, they're supporting it. Same thing with Pop OS, right? I love Pop OS because they have so many great extensions that are built right in and supported, first party. I think if you could run into situations where if you're using something that's a little more obscure and outside of that, or something that you're getting, as a third party piece of software from the extensions website, then yeah. But honestly, the stuff that's built in, either I lead a charmed existence, or I'm just lucky because I almost never have a problem with the extensions. I used to. That used to be the case, and I think that's a lot of the perception that people still have, is that it used to be that way. It really did. There were either memory issues or just usability problems. The extensions were just buggy, and I just again, if you use that core set that I think most people use, the most popular ones, they're pretty well supported, and I mean I haven't had issues with them for years. So again, either I'm lucky or that's cohesive enough that
It's my unprofessional opinion that if I'm going to run GNOME, I'm probably going to use Ubuntu because I like what they do with it versus everybody else. I like the amount of polish they put on it. They make it so I can use it and it doesn't bother me. It just works. It works great. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not my It's not my preference, but they've done enough work to it, shaped it enough that I'm
And
perfectly happy.
they've also done a good job of bringing.
Uh-oh.
They are surfacing
Um,
to talk over you.
No,
It keeps like rubber banding over top of people.
I don't know if I'm rubber banding or
You
I don't know
breaking
what
up,
it's
Eric.
doing. No. I am, and
Okay.
I'm talking over you, and I apologize.
No, it's fine. No worries. It's the worldwide interwebs. So what are you gonna say about GNOME does what? I mean,
Anyway, I think Pop! OS is probably the.
go ahead. I interrupted
I
you.
was just going to say, I think Pop! OS is the top of like relying on extensions to transform GNOME into something. And I would say like probably Zorin is close to that because they do the sort of the same thing. Ubuntu, obviously, you know, everybody except Fedora and I guess now openSUSE and Arch. I mean, Arch is going to be a vanilla, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like it. I used to be a Plasma aficionado, and I just, even when I was using Cache and I was playing around with it because I chose to use Plasma for Cache OS, and I don't know what it is. I just don't like it anymore. I'm just at home in GNOME.
You know, there are like 7,000 Linux distributions for a reason.
Yes, I agree.
So that should be
All right,
just
well
fine.
then let's move it along then. What do we say? Who wants it?
I can go ahead and do this. So Google's new fingerprinting policy sparks privacy concerns as it tracks all your devices. So that was that's the woo. Okay.
Dun dun dun.
any surprises here?
Yeah,
I was
thanks.
totally
I was going to say
surprised.
that.
Yeah, I was like Google would do something like that? There's no way.
Can't believe it. You mean they want granularity to know what device it is? You're kidding
Yeah.
me.
So here's the deal. So they've implemented this new tracking policy that affects various connected devices, including smartphones, consoles. I'm not sure what that means by consoles. Is that like those Google Home things? And smart TVs.
Probably game consoles, maybe too.
Game consoles?
Game consoles, yeah.
The updated
Maybe.
tracking method, known as fingerprinting, collects detailed information about a device's hardware and software to uniquely identify users. Unlike cookies, which a user can delete, fingerprinting is nearly impossible to block, even with VPN or private browsers. Remember, they're getting rid of cookies for privacy reasons, and now they got something new and more nefarious. That's great. This marks a shift from Google's 2019 stance where it condemned fingerprinting tracking as wrong. The policy, which took effect on April 16th, 2024, does not allow users to opt out, and critics argue that the policy primarily benefits Google and the advertising industry by enabling tracking that users cannot block, including UK's Information Commission Office, ICO, Stephen Almond. That's a weird sentence. Google defends the policy by citing the widespread use of similar tracking methods by other companies and the ineffectiveness of traditional data collecting methods on devices like smart TVs and game consoles. Privacy-focused users may find it challenging to prevent fingerprinting, as traditional methods like clearing cookies or using incognito mode are ineffective. In the meantime, browsers like Mozilla Firefox and Brave offer some fingerprinting protection, and Chrome extensions like Canvas Blocker also obscure tracking signals. Well,
But this
are you
is,
surprised?
again, if you're using Google, right? I mean, this is
Yeah.
if you're going to Google and using their search, which I haven't for years.
Yeah, it's really gone downhill. Like I can't.
Yeah,
Google searches used to be the best.
People say that, and I used
all
to
AI now,
say
isn't
that
it?
Damn, it's connection. Sorry, I don't know what I'm actually getting through. It's kind of frustrating. I mean,
No, you're fine. You're coming out fine.
Yeah, I've always, for many, many years now, like 5 or more years, I've thought that DuckDuckGo was a better search result. But I think a lot of people would say, no, Google's just, I can't switch because Google's results are so good. And then I would use Google and be like, okay, if you say so. But maybe I'm just using it I think I'm just so
You're
used to how
holding it
DuckDuckGo. Yeah, exactly. I know how DuckDuckGo works so well in comparison, I guess, that I get the result I want. Using the right kind of words or whatever. So I, if you go to Google and you use Google, Google's gonna Google. I mean, what do you expect here? This is not like anything that anyone should be like, oh my, really? I can't believe it. I mean, this is what they wanted. Like you said, Nate, I mean, this is worse than cookies ever could be, because at least cookies, there were ways to block it. And, this is like indefensible, so it's what they wanted. And nobody's, there are no privacy laws to say, no, you can't do this, so.
Well, just
there you
talking
go.
on DuckDuckGo, I mean, I've tried DuckDuckGo, but I don't know, I just can't find instantly what I need. I
I need
I
to
find
do an
myself
experiment.
searching for the answers, right?
I need to have someone like you who swears by Google, and then someone like, to work
I'm
with
not
to
swearing by
actually
Google.
Well, what do you use then?
I do use Google, but lately I've been using I've been trying Microsoft Edge, and
Yeah,
their
same.
search
And
is
Bing.
Bing, yeah.
well, Bing,
So-
Bing, I suppose it is.
So I use Bing.
And that
Recently I was switched to Edge. So I've been trying to move away from Google to Microsoft just to try things out.
yeah,
And also because one of the topic which is coming up soon, the Manifest 3, we'll talk about it soon. But Bing as a search option is so much worse than Google, because I've used only Google for so many years. Bing is so much worse, but I still try to use Bing most of the time. If I get bad results, I just search on Google and immediately get much better results. So it's like Bing is trying something AI, like the first result is always AI. Most of the time it's bogus, sometimes it's good, but the other results also, especially in images. Like normal search, for the most time it's fine. When I'm searching images, when I'm reverse searching images, it's horrible compared to Google. It's not even close. Like Google image search is really good. Maybe normal web search like Bing is like 80% close. Like most of the time it's fine, but images it's like really bad.
And I guess again, this is what I consistently hear. I literally am the only person I know of that doesn't think that also thinks that DuckDuckGo gives good results compared to Google. So again, maybe it's my area of knowledge or expertise or the focus, that I'm looking at, or maybe I just don't know what I don't know, and
Your
the
search
results I
dialectic.
get are like the results I
yeah,
get are
maybe
just good enough.
maybe you know what to search for, because it's a funny thing when you're searching something. What you type in is very important for, like, I mean, you can search for the same thing with so many different questions and get different results all the time. So it's important what you type in as well as to what you get fed back to you. So I've found that the Bing with the AI is very accurate so far. So maybe what Sravan searches for and what I search for probably, maybe his is a lot more technical than what mine is. Maybe mine's simple,
Yeah,
but
my
the
searches
AI
are
is
technical. That's the issue. It's like
yeah, that's right.
like
Yeah, the
sometimes
AI
it's
for me has
fine.
come up with
Then I
yeah,
fact check and it's like, no, this is bad.
right, okay. But it's funny, I haven't used Edge much at all except for at work. But even at work, I was using Google Chrome. But I just thought I'd give Edge a try on Linux and see how it goes. I find it fairly quick anyway, but I just thought I'd
So
try something different. But I have to say, on the Android, Edge is and the ads are just so intrusive on Android. It's just terrible. Just trying to get them out of your way. That's really bad.
on Android,
They're
I'm
on.
using Vivaldi. Vivaldi is good. No ads.
Oh, was it? I was thinking
Yeah.
about using that too. Maybe
Either
I'll
use
try
Brave,
Vivaldi.
Brave or Vivaldi on the Android. It's good.
I might try. Maybe I'll go to Vivaldi.
Yeah. I mean,
Should we go to the next
Vivaldi-
topic, Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the next topic is PewDiePie, a YouTuber with 110 million subscribers, was like top of YouTube for like 5 years ago. Like now it's Mr. Beast. So he recently in his video, like doing a sponsor read, said he recently switched to Linux and is really liking it. And like on his comments, he's saying, loving it so far. The fact that you can game on Linux now is amazing. Literally no point in using Windows anymore. So that's a really good, recommendation to many people by one of the largest like social media content creators in the world.
I've heard of the name PewDiePie, and that is about as much as I know.
The first time I heard about him was there was a subscriber war between PewDiePie and T-Series. T-Series is a media company in India which owns rights to a lot of songs. So they were fighting for who had most number of subscribers on YouTube. So it was T-Series on one side and PewDiePie. They both were like racing each other for like 100 million subscribers or whatever. But now like Mr. Beast has thrown away everything. Like he's by far the largest. He was the biggest YouTuber for a while. PewDiePie.
PewDiePie is I know him because my son used to watch him, and he does gaming commentary as he plays. I think that's what his main thing, isn't it, Sravan? I'm pretty sure. He was.
Yep, you're correct. And he's a gaming guy.
He's very animated, very sort of dramatic and whatever with what happens within the games as well. So I am going to build a lot of the young ones found that very entertaining. But somebody says here in this Reddit, they say, let's hope he complains about the kernel anti-cheat so companies implement them for Linux.
Like, probably is possible. He has that much clout. Like, he has 110 million subscribers. That's a huge number.
It is a huge number.
It seems like a lot of responsibility to have that many people subscribe to you. But I mean, I think it's really cool. I mean, if it's working out great for him, great. I didn't see where you that Colin, where you found that. You're muted. I can't hear you.
It's on the Reddit.
Yeah, I'm looking like.
It's on the Reddit forum. It's just near the top.
Oh, the ones that's loving it so far. The fact you can game on Linux is now amazing. Literally no point in using Windows. Yeah, I saw that. I thought maybe it said something else.
Nah. Should we go on to the next topic, Nate?
So does that mean that this is the year of the Linux desktop because PewDiePie is on board now? Is that what that means?
No.
Yeah, come on, year of the Linux desktop.
Officially 2025 because PewDiePie.
Nate, let's talk about year of Linux desktop after it happens, not before. I think that would be much more positive.
I'm waiting for the year of the Windows desktop because someday it's not going to be a pile of garbage. Okay, yeah, we can move on.
Yeah, so the next topic is Google, bad Google. Google Chrome disables uBlock origin for some and Manifest v3 rollout. So for people not new to this issue, Manifest v3 is Google's new extension platform in which things with detailed control like uBlock origin, which I don't exactly know how these extensions work, but basically the framework which uBlock origin uses to block ads doesn't work in Manifest v3 anymore. So uBlock origin doesn't work on Manifest v3. So it's rolling out slowly, and now Google Chrome is disabling uBlock origin. So you can't use it anymore. So luckily I switched to Edge So this was one of the reasons why I actually switched to Edge, because I knew this was coming. I hate ads. So yeah, let's see if Edge maintains this for a while. But yeah, for most people using Google Chrome over the next few months, you will use your best ad block.
I wonder if that's going to affect Chromium as well then. I imagine it will. It says Chrome. Because I don't use Chrome.
Chromium, it can affect Chromium, but again, Edges, these are all custom forks, so they might keep it. I don't know. Depends on engineering skill, I guess.
Because if it affects Chromium, I would think that would affect Edge then, because Chromium is upstream from both Chrome and Edge.
Yeah, but Chromium is open source, right? You can modify it to still keep it manifest v2.
Yeah. I don't know.
So that's the advantage of Chromium versus Chrome.
It seems I don't even know what all this is even going to matter. Like, I mean, it seems like
it matters. You don't want ads, right?
No.
I assume you're using Pi-hole, so you don't like ads. So it affects a lot of people who don't use Pi-hole, but normally use ad blockers on browsers like me. So this is a huge issue.
No. I mean, like it seems like there's pushback against privacy and advertising, and then Google ratchets it up, and then other things are done to keep them at bay. Then they ratchet it up. It seems like it's a never-ending. If these ad agencies, these internet ad agencies, weren't so, I'm going to go ahead and say, criminally unethical in how they shove ads into their tracking into the websites, none of this would even matter. So all I have to do is not be a bunch of numpties, and none of this would matter. They don't have to try and force this garbage on people. There are other ways they can more politely get the information they need than do what they're doing. But I just think it's just criminally unethical is what I think. So that's my opinion. This is probably where we lose the stream.
I've only been using Edge for the last couple of days. I've been using Firefox just for years. Is all I use is Firefox. But I don't know. I've read some stories about Firefox. I don't know where they stand at the moment as a browser. I'm hoping they continue, no problem.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't use any ad blockers. I don't use ad blockers. I never have. That's strange as it may sound. I don't use ad blockers. If they become too intrusive, like they're starting to become, then maybe I have to start doing that. But I try not to worry about that stuff.
So Don Lackland says, I believe the hooks for V2 are still available, so Brave will continue to allow V2 add-ons until Google removes the hooks. So I suppose downstream can add those hooks back in. I guess I don't know how the code is in there, so I don't know anything about it. So, well, I think I should probably go ahead and get the next one, because this one probably excites me.
I was going to say,
next
one's for Nate.
Yeah, it is. So, openSUSE Spin achieves 100% bit identical packages for reproducible builds. And this is from Phoronix. And so, why this is important, I'll read this first. So, the project called Reproducible openSUSE, or RBOS, working on a proof of concept for constructing openSUSE in a bit identical manner as part of the broad reproducible build effort to be able to reproduce builds bit for bit against what is being compiled by the distribution vendor or other software distribution. The openSUSE RBOS has achieved 100% bit identical packages as a major milestone. The openSUSE build announced today that the experimental RBOS project has achieved a significant milestone in demonstrating usable Linux distribution with 100% bit identical packages. First, that openSUSE's RBOS isn't to be confused with the other Linux distribution effort, RBOS as the Rebecca Black OS experiment is different. So the what makes this significant is ensuring the clean supply chains for software that are not tampered with. this helps to prove that nothing has been tampered with at all. And so the fact they can do this means that it's another layer of security on the integrity of the packages. So that is pretty exciting. I remember Debian had an initiative many years ago, it was probably a decade ago or so, and I thought that this was kind of like old news, but maybe they didn't continue with it. I don't know. I can probably look that up, but I'm not going to. So anyway, I think it's great news. I like to see ways of protecting the software supply chain, and if openSUSE is making a greater concerted effort toward that, that only helps everybody out, in my opinion. Which I don't have to say in my opinion, because of course it's my opinion. Oh, and here's another openSUSE story, which I think this was, I think someone said something in the chat about this last week, or maybe I was talking to somebody about this. Maybe it was in the Telegram. But openSUSE is exploring retiring the legacy boot support. So from its FOSS, the openSUSE family of Linux distributions are known for their rock-solid stability, powerful system management tools, and flexibility, allowing users to tailor an installation to their needs. Just a few days ago, it was revealed that Tumbleweed would be switching to SELinux, ditching AppArmor as a default Mac system. And now it looks like it may have yet another major move from them in the opening quarter of 2025. So they're exploring retiring the legacy boot support. So SUSE is evaluating dropping legacy boot support. So it says, please let us know if you foresee any issues. Please be aware that SLES 16 and LEAP 16 support requires x86 64v2. So personally, that there will be many cases where such a system will would not require UEFI. I was a bit concerned about VERT scenarios. We should ensure that EUFI is the default for new VMs, as it seems to be legacy boot now. It seems to, yeah. If you have any concerns, please share them with code -0 -o. There's a link in the article if you care to explore that. And so, yeah. So anyway, the issue there is for their enterprise level distribution, they would drop support for that because they require V2 anyway, and anything that's V2 wouldn't have legacy boot most likely. So Tumbleweed would still keep legacy boot, at least for the time being, because they still support 32-bit x86. So there's not really, you can't have EUFI. If you drop legacy boot, then basically you would drop any need for 32-bit as well. So anyway, so yeah, it says right there in the article that openSUSE Tumbleweed would not be affected by this. Anyway, so if that concerns anybody, SUSE, they got to pay the bills somehow. So reducing some technical burden, I guess, is probably good for them. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. More evidence or more push that the times they are changing, I suppose. And then, so let's get the next one. Sravan, go ahead and you can do that next one.
Yeah, so next one is a blog post by Ikey Doherty, who is the lead and creator of Serpent OS. So they say that Serpent OS is facing some funding challenges, but the development is continuing. Recently, they had some medical issues, which led them being laid off from their work. So they want to work on Serpent OS full time and not get another job, so that they can spend more time creating Serpent OS and getting out soon. So how can you help fund Serpent OS? So you can either support them via Ko-Fi or GitHub sponsors. And for transparency, they have an established company or business background for Serpent OS project. And also one more thing you can help them is via infrastructure. Right now they have some infrastructure issues, and most of the infrastructure is based on a volunteer server rack. So yeah, they're looking for infrastructure help also, like if you can't help them monetarily, and also they're looking for contributors to the community, including community management, documentation, translation, and web development. On a related note, Serpent OS also is rebranding from Serpent OS to AerynOS. Is that correct?
Yeah,
AerynOS. Yeah. So
Aaron. Yeah.
basically, because they think that Serpent is like seen as something unfortunate in many cultures and something negative connotations in many cultures, so they got feedback from several users over years that it was off-putting. So they're changing into AerynOS, which is derived from Irish roots. I don't know. It's a new word for me. So they hope that this is more inviting to users and developers so that they can get more involvement in the community and more contributions to move the project forwards. So now through mid-March, they'll be working to complete the transition of the branding from Serpent OS to AerynOS through GitHub organization, domains, and other related assets.
I mean, I think that's
All
probably a
good
good
things.
move to. I can see why some people don't like the idea of Serpent. I mean, frankly, I don't like snakes, whether they're wrapped around
Yeah.
a pole or, underneath a log when I'm trying to move some stuff, in the woods or on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. But yeah, I mean, Serpent OS at the same time kind of sounds cool, we
What was the new name? How do you pronounce it? Aaron. Is
Aaron.
it Aaron?
AerynOS. Yeah, it's a
Aaron.
Yeah, you can. They say that you can pronounce the ERIN, like Aaron
Aaron.
name.
Yeah.
It's the same. Yeah,
Aaron.
Yeah.
There is another blog post that we missed before this one. They're talking about how they are facing funding challenges.
Oh, Sravan actually had that one.
Development
Yeah,
continues.
yeah, I covered that.
Oh, did you? Sorry, I was typing something. I must have missed that. Sorry,
no worries.
Sravan.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to see what comes of it because, I think Ikey Doherty is a very talented, so it'd be great to see what he does. They're I know, has anyone here has anyone run Serpent OS? Probably something we should probably
Haven't tried it.
or AerynOS. That seems like something that's a candidate for
It's still in alpha, so
oh, is it?
I don't think it's mature enough to run.
So yeah, that's cool.
Unless you're as adventurous as Nate, with his all his adventures, weekly Linux adventures.
Well, I guess I can do this one then too. It looks like openSUSE Tumbleweed will be switching from AppArmor to SELinux. So these are you familiar with what AppArmor and SELinux are? So they're
security.
Security modules. So they, in a nutshell, they will. It's like an agent. That's probably not the right word. A daemon that runs on your system, that manages to make sure that applications aren't behaving outside of what their confines should be. And so, like, if you have to make sure you have, at least for me personally, I've had to make sure I've had rules tuned properly with AppArmor and SELinux, so that if you're going to run PHP on a web server, you have to allow for certain permissions through AppArmor. Anyway, I know that Ubuntu, I think, primarily uses AppArmor, and then Red Hat primarily uses SELinux. So it looks like SUSE or openSUSE is going the way of the Fedora route of things. So SELinux is security enhanced Linux. You actually, if you have an Android phone, you'll see that does have SELinux on it as well. If you ever, you can check that out. But anyway, so any new installations will have SELinux by default, and then if you have an existing installation, you have to switch over manually. We can do that right there in Yast, so it's pretty easy to do. So nothing very terribly complex. So I guess, well, in the openSUSE Leap 15 series, we'll still continue to use AppArmor by default. So the matter of switching from this whole matter of switching from AppArmor to SELinux has been a discussion for about the past year. So I guess do I care? No. I think whatever the developers think is best there. I'm not the security, like the hypersecurity person. I don't know. I'm sure there's good reasons for both, but you know, as long as there's a method of protection, it's probably splitting hairs at this point if one's better than the other. But if the developers are more comfortable, then I think that's probably the more important piece. Because they could, you know, in 4 or 5 years, they could switch back. Who knows? It's a crazy world.
I know in an enterprise environment, those are very important pieces of software. I think for most people, desktop users at least, they're probably an inconvenience. Kind of like having to put in your password more frequently than you need to. So I remember in the past using Fedora, and this was, 10 years ago, their implementation of SELinux was pretty strict. And I remember running into that quite a bit. They've done a good job tuning it. I don't notice it nearly as much as I used to.
You know, I do remember early on when they first started implementing these security devices where it would cause problems, and then most people's their course of action was just to disable the security agent. So I know that's. I want to say now it's pretty straightforward for allowing things the access they need. So I don't believe it's as complicated as it once was, but I could be wrong.
Well, and I know SELinux in particular is very granular, or at least it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it was a little more, it needed more sort of direct kind of tuning than I've seen with AppArmor, at least.
And maybe at this point it's pretty well tuned that the rules are in place and we have a good understanding.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they probably have a sane sort of like baseline things that you would never want to happen on a computer, like capturing that kind of stuff, but have opened it a little more widely to accommodate a desktop use case. I know the servers tend to have a higher setting for that kind of stuff, which is good.
You know, that makes me think of, I remember early on in my Mandrake years, they had different security settings. I remember it was like one of them was paranoid. So if you were paranoid, you could click on that and make your system more paranoid. I was that user. That's probably why I struggled a lot early on with Linux, is because I was paranoid. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you and I have talked about not having a firewall and how that used to be something that was just, commonplace, like especially Windows. Like you'd have firewall in place to see what stuff was. Just to get a notification whenever there was some sort of different or new connection.
Mm-hmm.
And Linux desktop environments or distributions, by and large, don't even think about it. They may include one, like Mint has one, but it's not on. So not sure what good that is.
Yeah. I install the FirewallD applet package on Tumbleweed because it gives me a little thing in the corner and it tells me the status of the firewall, and it doesn't tell me necessarily new connections. In fact, it doesn't it's not very verbose at all, but you can very quickly put the lockdown in the system, which I think is pretty cool. Back in the my earlier Linux days on Mandrake, they had the firewall would tell you every time there was something was probing your system, it would actually let you know something was probing the system, and that could get a little bit annoying.
I think you can set up notifications for FirewallD. Again, I'm not sure. I used to use it regularly before. I don't remember.
Yeah, you're
But
probably right.
It's useful.
You're probably right. It's probably just something I haven't really dug into more, but it does tell me the stat. I mean, it does tell me, you know.
Yeah, but the issue is Firewall is there's so many options you have to like. It's a ocean.
Yeah, it's true. So, I mean, at least it's something. All right, someone get the GNOME 48.
Yeah, I can do that one. Because I was totally prepared. I'm almost there. All right, so GNOME 48 beta released with HDR bits, gdctl, Adwaita fonts, default, and more. You're making it hard for me to read. All right, so GNOME 48 beta release was officially announced this morning. This was February 16th. As the latest stepping stone towards the official GNOME 48 desktop release due out in mid-March. Some of the highlights of new changes found in GNOME 48 beta include the GNOME Web Epiphany web browser has modernized its import dialogues. Amazed they're still spending time on that. GNOME Backgrounds has updated its default background for GNOME 48. GNOME Builder brings style improvements to match libadwaita, better integration with elementary, and various other improvements. GNOME Calendar now offers selecting the time zones for the start and end times of events. GNOME Maps has redesigned its user location marker and improved rendering of route markers and public transit route itineraries. GNOME Music adds support for high DPI album covers. GNOME Remote Desktop now supports zero-copy rendering with Vulkan and VA API video acceleration. It boasts improved screen time limit support for the new GNOME 48 feature. That's a nonsense sentence.
Well, I think that's like
GNOME software now.
It's like an Apple thing,
ahead.
isn't it? The whole screen time thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need my computer to tell me
I get
how
it.
long
I
to
understood
work
what
on
it meant. It was just the way they phrased it was, it's like maybe someone that was not a native English speaker wrote that. Anyway, GNOME software now supports installing Flatpaks via a Flatpak Plus HTTPS link. It's kind of cool. GNOME Text Editor has more refinements on its design updates, switching over to Adwaita fonts by default. So Adwaita fonts is the thing I had mentioned earlier. You're getting away from the, I think it was a Cantorell or something. And it's just a cleaner sans serif font, in my opinion. So more modern looking. GTK 4.17.4 toolkit adds a GTK backend for Android devices that is considered experimental. It's interesting. So maybe they'll have some native support for Android at some point. GTK's X11 and Broadway backends are now considered deprecated. GBFS adds support for Live NFS 6 and supports SharePoint drives. GNOME Local Search drops GStreamer for metadata extraction and now uses FFmpeg directly. That's good. Loop Image Viewer has improvements to its image editing support. GNOME Mutter has the new display control gdctl utility. GNOME Mutter also configuring HDR allows configuring HDR via the display config dbus API. Nautilus has faster batch file deletions, and it's faster for simple recursive searches through mount monitors. Snapshot now detects missing camera permissions. XTG desktop portable GNOME adds USB portal backend. So a bunch of quality of life stuff there. A lot of this stuff isn't really gonna, I don't think anyone would even notice most of it. Maybe the font. Different background. A lot of stuff is just background stuff, Well, I guess if you use the calendar, you would notice the ability to pick a time zone. It always fascinates me to see what they specifically choose to dedicate time to. Like when the first item is about the Epiphany web browser, and I think like,
why?
There has to be so few people, like why would you spend time on that? But I know that whenever I was looking in, if you remember when KDE started doing what's his name, the guy that was doing the smoothing out the rough edges, and he was doing the weekly
Nate Graham.
updates. Nate Graham, thank you.
He still does.
One of his difficulties, and I remember him expressing this, and it made a lot of sense to me and actually gave me a perspective I hadn't thought of before, is that contributors are going to work on what they want to work on. And a lot of times there are things that need to be fixed that aren't going to be fixed because no one wants to do it. And unless you have people who are like paid contributors or someone that you can tell, hey, work on this bug, you're essentially just, it's a free-for-all, right? Whoever feels like doing whatever they want to do, that's what they do. So I think that's why we see sort of these eclectic, release notes where doesn't seem like there was one particular overriding focus, like you'd maybe see with, proprietary software, where the product developers and the developers and the product managers like all had a focus for that release. Whereas I think a lot of this is just whoever decided to do it, did it, and got it into that release. So I could be wrong.
I think what I like is they're putting emphasis on the HDR displays. So I think that's important for a lot of people. I don't have any HDR displays myself, but at least I don't believe I do. But I do like the fact. I mean, they're on the leading edge of getting the new technologies incorporating into Linux. I mean, I don't know if does Windows do HDR yet? I don't remember if it even does yet. I know Plasma had it before Windows did. So
I have to imagine it does by now, but maybe not.
Yeah, who knows? They still have Windows NT dialogues for a lot of their system settings. So
that is true. Yeah, they have like 3 different layers of settings now, which is fun.
And the deeper you go, like for every layer you go to a previous version of Windows.
So you get all the way back to NT. I agree with you. There is stuff in there that looks like it's from the NT days.
And you can't resize the box either, and so it's always really uncomfortable to look at. It's just so.
So on like a huge monitor, it's like a postage stamp.
Yes, and then you can't see everything in there. So you gotta like scroll in the little box. It's like, I mean, they couldn't take one day and just work out something like just put some handles on that box so you can stretch it out. Come on, one day.
I think
one day.
My solution to it has been using the like screen zoom. Let's see, like accessibility features. It's really the only way you can use it without resizing your desktop. I guess that's the other way.
Well, the problem is like it's too much information inside the window, so you have to like scroll side to side just to get to the different people see. And you can't make it bigger. Just put a handle on that. Just one handle.
I remember many things like being that way, especially with like IIS back in the day, where you'd have to put in like long paths and like all this stuff, and it was just a nightmare to deal with. Yes, Windows. It's like a bad memory, like, did it really happen? Oh, goodness. All right. Well, GNOME's looking pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
I was going to say, Cody says those settings are hidden deep into System 32. So I guess he's maybe saying it's a little bit more work than I would even think. And then Sean says, fun fact, most of Cubicle Nate's system boots to basic HDR not needed. So
I'm going to try rebooting because the rubber banding's pretty bad. So I'll be back.
Okay. Yeah, well, I guess I don't know. I like seeing that GNOME is still chugging along, doing good things. So there is some bad news, and we're not going to end it here, but it should at least be something to keep in mind. It says that software engineering job openings hit a 5-year low. So, now the page is not found. All right, well.
Yeah, I was having problems getting that up.
It was there earlier. Oh, well.
Maybe they just employed a few people.
Maybe they should have hired somebody. All right, well, never mind on that one. All right, so I guess we'll make this the last one. So FLAC 1.5 debuts with long-awaited multi-threading encoding. So if you ever encode anything in FLAC, you know it takes a while. So from linuxiac.com, FLAC 1.5 free lossless audio codec introduces a multi-threaded encoder, improved decoding for chained OGG FLAC files, and a bunch of fixes. So I'm sure audio geeks will welcome this news with enthusiasm, as FLAC 1.5 has just been released, with the previous 1.4.3 version rolled out over a year and a half ago, bringing several enhancements that users have been waiting for. Before that, here's a quick explanation for anyone who might not be familiar with this. FLAC, the free lossless audio codec, is a type of audio file format that keeps music and sound in high quality without losing any details. Unlike MP3, which compresses audio by removing some data, FLAC keeps everything intact while still reducing the file size. As you can expect, it makes it perfect for people who want top-notch sound quality like audiophiles or musicians. Now, if you have major tinnitus and you always have ringing in your ears, it doesn't matter how quality it is. So, as you can expect, it makes it perfect for people who want top-notch quality sound like audiophiles and musicians. Plus, FLAC files can be played on many devices and converted into other formats if needed. First and foremost, the latest update makes FLAC encoder fully multi-threaded, which should result in more efficient and faster conversions, especially on modern CPUs. Moreover, the decoder can now handle chained OGG FLAC files, a feature likely to simplify workflows for users dealing with large collections or streaming applications. Another exciting improvement is that one can write metadata to a new file rather than having to overwrite existing data, which can be very handy when preserving original for archival or testing purposes. Furthermore, the command line tool has undergone a series of refinements. For instance, testing mode, so access with FLAC-T, now scans all metadata blocks, issuing heads up if the ID3v1 metadata is spotted. In addition, you can re-encode the FLAC file from another FLAC. There's another check to ensure that MD5 sums match, giving users peace of mind regarding data integrity. On the build and testing fronts, FLAC 1.5 addresses several platform-specific concerns, such as improved building compatibility and older Android API levels, and enhanced fuzzing method for more thorough validation. And lastly, thanks to emscription support, it's now easier to compile FLAC for web-based environments. For more deep view of the novelties, see the changelog. So, I know that when I save stuff, like if I'm recording, I have to record locally, I always use FLAC because that's what Wendy wants on Linux Out Loud. But outside of that, I'm not a big audiophile. I like just, as long as it sounds good, and my range of good is pretty wide. As long as it's not tinny or sounds like mush mouth, I'm pretty happy with it. So, good deal. We got through more news articles that time than ever, and I really appreciate everyone, getting in there and reading them, so I didn't have to read them all. My voice thanks you. So it does mean it is time for housekeeping. So we're gonna go ahead and hop over to that. And so next week is an application appetizer. So that means we're going to be exploring some application out there, or perhaps or maybe a desktop environment or something else. Is there anything that maybe people are really interested in? What's that, Ben?
I have an idea on that one, maybe, Nate.
Sure.
I was you remember me talking about that Katana desktop that one time, right?
I don't.
Well, what it is it's a modern fork of KDE 4.x, actually. And it was ported over. Well, what?
What would I want? What would a modern KDE 4?
Well, it's. I would suggest you take a look at the link because it'll do a better job of explaining it than I personally would over words, personally. But what it is is it's KDE 4 brought to modern Linux with a faster speed rate, things like that. You know, it's more up to date and I think more reliable, so to speak. And it was just a thought that we could maybe dabble into that for this week, maybe. Now, I have ran it before, and I was able to get it to run and compile. So, now they do have Arch packages, Debian packages, and BSD packages. I don't know. I have not, for other Linux flavors, you will have to do it manually, however.
Do you
And
have
they
a
have a,
do you have
what?
like a do they have like a preferred distribution? Because it might be better served as a
They have a
distribution.
build script that automates the process, however. But
Well, that's
it's on GitHub and all that. So.
what is it called? Catan desktop.
Katana, Katana.
Katana.
And yes, I'll link it in the Zoom chat for you.
I'm in the GitHub now.
Yeah, but I'll do it.
It says
for
be
others.
free and be efficient. Katana is a fork of KDE software distribution with emphasis on efficiency. Roughly efficient, less resource hungry than
Yeah.
faster.
Like I said, it's a fork of the 484 desktop. So
Let's say what it doesn't actually say.
Nate, I have another suggestion. We were talking about Starship prompt. I don't know if that counts as an application.
Oh, that is an application. Is that Starship?
yeah,
The prompt alternative to omeposh.
What is it? Do you have a link for that?
Starship. This
Yeah.
starts for Starship prompt. I'll share that. Starship prompt. Yeah,
Starship cross shell
RS.
prompt.
Yep. I'll pasted the link in Zoom.
it's all good. Yeah, Nate, if you want me to take a little bit more of a look at Katana, I can do that before we distro review it or whatever.
Yeah, I want to. If it's something that's a little bit more
Yeah.
difficult to get, I want to
Yeah,
Well,
I'll do a bit
want-
more of a dump.
maximum participation, and also, easy things are nice too.
Yeah, this is very easy.
Yeah.
Starship is very easy. It's
All
it's
right.
available on most
I'll,
distros.
What's Starship again, Sravan?
It's a prompt. It modifies how your bash
Oh, it's
shell
a
looks.
modification prompt. Okay. Yeah.
It looks much better, like especially if you're managing
Oh,
Python
okay.
environments or whatever, like any languages, npm. It gives you version. It gives you virtual
Yeah,
environments.
my Star
Lots of
Wars
good
game
things.
launcher is actually written in npm. It's in JSON files actually.
So if you're using npm, you have various versions, right? So it shows you what version you are in that folder. So it shows you git status of that folder. It shows you
Yeah.
Python virtual environment in a folder. Lots of things. Sure, you can customize it to show time, git status, like whether like they're uncommitted changes or do you want to push. Like all those things are there in the prompt. The same, like if you used omeposh before, this is something like omeposh. But I personally think this is easier to configure than omeposh. And then, yeah. And probably it's a little bit faster and lighter compared to omeposh. But yeah, I haven't verified that. I might have, but I forgot.
Huh, it's interesting. Like the little little animation demonstration thing. So I have to see how would I install it in.
It's
like
it's there in most repos.
Okay.
Right.
It should be there in openSUSE.
It should
it's
be
not?
there. Yeah.
I think it's there. You can just check zipper install or whatever.
Oh, the OPM
Starship.
Starship.
Yeah.
Yep. Starship debug info, Starship debug source. I mean, I think it'd be fun to play with. We've done other terminal stuff. This won't require me to because I lost a week of work, a few days of work. This won't require me to like rewrite my week.
Oh.
Oh, and
No, this is
also,
very easy to configure. It's like easy to make it your default prompt and easy to configure. Like its basic configuration is good. Like the base Starship is decent enough. Like you don't need to modify it for it to be functional. Everything else is aesthetics.
all right, let's do that. Ben, we'll come back to Catan because I would like to try that desktop environment out.
No, that's okay.
And we might want to wrap that up like a more of a distribution week.
Cool for me, man.
So-
whatever you guys choose.
Starship prompt.
All right.
So yeah, I would like to check out and see what this.
Oh, by the way, can we do a quick small update on my
Sure,
thing
hang
by
on.
the chance?
We'll get there.
Okay.
So, yep. Yeah, we'll do that. Does anybody have any concerns? Sure. Starship. So, Sravan, will you be available in the Telegram, like if we have questions or
Yeah.
like, some neat things? Okay, cool. Colin, is this something you might want to play with? You're
Oh, you're muted, Colin.
No.
no?
Yeah, I just realised. No, I'm all good.
Okay. Is there something else you would prefer?
Man, I can
Colin?
work with it.
No, I'm not. What were we talking about? I was typing a little bit, so I wasn't really listening.
So, Starship prompt, it's like a I forget what the term is, but like
It's a
geek pictures,
shell.
geek
Shell.
emotes.
Do you use omeposh, Colin? Or do
Posh,
you modify
isn't
your...
that is that an Android, like a phone
No,
operating system or
omeposh.
something? Posh?
No, do you use
No.
terminal often? Do you modify your bash
No.
prompt?
So,
Okay.
I use terminal, but I don't modify bash prompt or anything. No.
Yeah, this is a modification for bash prompt. It's for terminal. folks.
Oh, okay.
so it adds like little
okay.
characters and graphics in the terminal. So like if you're doing stuff with Git, it'll actually show you not just it's master, but actually show you like the symbol for master and then
It'll show like
other bits too.
uncommitted changes, or if you need to download any pushes. Like
Yeah.
it shows.
No,
It shows everything.
pretty
It shows
happy
you
just-
what Python environment you are in, what's the Python version, what's your virtual environment, or if you have npm, what's the npm version. Like npm has different versions, so it's like it shows you lots of things. Like it's for terminal folks.
I got you. Well,
Yeah,
actually,
I know how to use the terminal, but that's over my head, to be honest. I'm not like a programmer or anything like that, so
It's more useful for
just a very
programmers
simple terminal user.
because for most languages this is pre-configured. So in other prompt modifications, you have to actually configure for each language. But in in Starship, it's pre-configured for most languages,
Right.
like Python, or you can say C. I don't know about C, but there are lots of languages which is like pre-configured to help you in a terminal, like provide more information.
well, what we can also do is like maybe let's expand it out. So
Yeah.
so maybe
You can try other things also. I can
so
search
well,
for
say-
my list of
say
apps.
Starship
which are
prompt
useful. Yeah.
and or
So Starship.
I can put
Starship.
I can put a link to there's a link in the show notes, but I'll put it in the put in there.
Oh, yeah.
Put it here as well. And then Sleepy Event says the only Starship prompt I would be happy with would be LCARS, and I totally agree. Totally agree. And I think it is a bit like Powerline prompt. So we could say
Powerline. I know Powerline.
are there any are there any like tools, like terminal tools that you use specifically that maybe you would
Yes,
like to
there
share?
is. Now that you've asked.
Okay.
Yes, there used to be a easy MP3 game which used to normalize your music.
Huh?
Right? Well, that seems to have fallen off the radar in recent years. So I found a terminal one that's called RS Game, and it's quite a fairly simple program to use. So, because I needed to normalize, it's nothing worse than listening to music in your car and volumes are different.
So does it actually then reprocess your
So I
music to
found
all be
one-
the same? Is that what it does?
Yeah, I don't know how good it's worked because I don't know if I did. I've got a USB stick in the car, but they're all different. I don't know if I've done that one yet. I probably need to do what's on the USB. I don't know if you can actually do USB with that, or it's got to be on the desktop itself. But I definitely didn't need to do that because the music's not normalized. So, but I've done the desktop stuff, but I haven't checked it. I was just playing around with it a little while ago.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll do is, so for next week, application appetizer, terminal tools. So we'll feature a couple of them. So if you don't want to mess with your prompt, we've got Starship prompt for those that want to, and if you want to mess with something with like MP3s, then we got RS Gain. So if you have a link for RS
I
Gain,
have a quick idea on a music player, Nate.
a terminal one,
Wait. Yes, CMOS.
got a link for that? 'Cause I've never heard of it.
I'll look it up real quick.
There's a terminal music player. If you use Spotify, there's something called Spotify_player, which
Yeah.
works really well in the terminal. I've been using that
I just
for
linked you
like
the
a week.
GitHub for CMOS, Nate. In
Okay.
Zoom.
Got it.
Cool.
I'll
It's
just
the
give
thing
you a
I've
link
for
used
RS
off and
Gain,
on
Nate.
when I run like i3 or another desktop.
Yeah, no, I like that.
I'll share the
Tell
link for
YouTube.
Spotify player.
Okay.
It's really good. It's terminal based.
Yeah.
You need a premium account, I think, but if you have a
I have
premium
Spotify
account,
Premium through a family account.
this is like a really good terminal. It's based on Rust, so it's built on Rust, and yeah, you
That's
can
cool.
build it in several options. You can get like images also, art. It has lyrics, like it has a lot of things. It's a full-fledged
So it's a
Spotify
full-fledged
client in there.
Spotify client just in a CLI.
Which one is?
It's really good. I've been using it for the past week.
What's a
on
full-fledged?
I see the
oh,
link
this one.
in Zoom link. Yeah,
All right.
it's really good. If you have a premium account, this is worth it.
All right, so it's we're going to call this then. Next week is a terminal tools extravaganza. Where we'll be.
Yeah.
There we go.
The old extravaganza.
We'll just throw in
The
extravaganza.
terminal.
There we are.
The
Terminal tools extravaganza.
Yeah, terminal tools extravaganza party.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a terminal party.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. So we'll put that. It'll be in the show notes.
Yep.
All right. If you have any suggestions for Linux Saloon, feel free to share them. Send me an email, suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, or you can tag myself or Eris or somebody, or just tag suggestion in the Telegram or Discord that we run. And if you have any ideas for polls or application appetizer distro suggestions, I did get a distribution suggestion from somebody who periodically lurks. Trina's Technobabble says, "Can you do a GUI tools party for the following week?" We can certainly put a GUI tools party out there as well. I'm all for that.
I'm all for that too.
The any suggestions? I did get a suggestion for doing.
Right.
I'm actually going to put probably a poll together. I'm going to talk to Eris and see the best way we should go about doing that. I have a few different distributions. I want to see what gets the most responses. I'll probably do them in different ways. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna do that. All right, so I did say community free pour, so we got a few minutes here. So if you
Extra minutes, yeah.
well, actually we're out of time, but go ahead. What exciting news you got for us?
Well, I've been for the past couple days messing around with a theme update idea because I started with the Adwaita GTK free theme on my February update, and it's okay, but it's not exactly the black and blue theme I'm looking for. So I thought to myself and watched a YouTube video on the blue sphere theme, and that's currently the look that I'm going for. And I'm also going to include the Numix blue theme in there too. And so those themes will hopefully be coming in the March ISO of StormOS. So, long story short, guys, keep your eyes peeled because hopefully within the next few weeks or so, Blue Fear will hopefully be coming back in StormOS in the next month. So keep your eyes peeled. So yeah. And I did use chat.deepseek AI to help port the theme to a modern GTK.
It's probably
And
got
what?
like malicious code in it now.
Oh no. It's nothing dangerous. It's just it helped me fix the code to GTK4. That's all it did. But either way, yeah. So keep your eyes peeled for hopefully a new modern version of these two themes in the coming weeks.
Cool.
So, anyway, that's my update for this month, and we'll see in the next few weeks if we have a better looking March version. So
Excellent.
keep it coming. All right.
How very exciting. All right. Well, this
Anyway.
means it is closing time. So,
Yes.
I know Eric didn't come back, so apparently he had it with us after his internet was giving him problems.
Yes.
Colin, do you have anything that you're working on or doing?
No, I haven't got time, mate.
All right.
I understand.
Then I have to head off. See
Okay.
you guys next week.
See you.
See you, Ben.
I know, Sravan, if you have any exciting like single board computer adventures with ARM that you're working on.
Nothing yet. I've been thinking about putting something on my Rock 5B. I haven't touched it in like 2 years. At that time, the kernel support was very bad, but hopefully it has improved, or I have to see what distro I can put on it. If you haven't heard of it, I'll post the link. It's a really powerful single board computer, like maybe 2 or 3 times more powerful than the Raspberry Pi, or even more. Like you can legit it can serve as a mini PC. Like it's that good. So I haven't touched it yet, because at that time when I bought it, only like kernel 5.10 was running. It was like a forked kernel. I was like, I don't even want to bother, and it was very like the desktop environment was iffy what they provided, but hopefully now there's something better, but I haven't touched it yet. It's been lying there for 2 years. Yeah, I'll see if I have time this week to get it running again, because this is like really powerful. I can do lots of things with this.
Now I have a partially unrelated question. Are you interested in the Pi 500?
Maybe, but I don't have it. I didn't buy any Pi 5.
I was curious.
I have Pi 4B, and that's it. I'm not planning to buy any Raspberry Pi 5 anytime soon, because recently I bought an ARM laptop. So
Right.
that's it for ARM for me, probably for a while, because I've spent a lot of money on that ARM laptop.
I got you. That makes
And
sense.
it's like much powerful than any other ARM device I can own, because it's like Snapdragon X Elite chip with 3.4 gigahertz 12 cores. No other ARM device is going to come close, which I can buy. So yeah.
Yeah, you already got a
And-
neat toy. No need for more neat toys right now. Gotta
Yeah,
fully
and the new
explore
toy
that one.
doesn't have, and the new toy Snapdragon Qualcomm is working hard to get mainline Linux support. They're sending in patches every release.
Oh wow. Okay.
Every release. So over the next year, or maybe sooner, I'll have a reliable kernel, so then I can run whatever I want on it. So I'm just waiting. I'm not deleting Windows anytime soon, but first I'll start with maybe some WS. I already have like EndeavorOS, like WSL with EndeavorOS running on it. It can run GI apps. It can run whatever I want. My development environment for ARM it can build packages. It can do whatever. But I'm still waiting until there's proper kernel support, so that I can put Linux on it, but not anytime soon.
Got it. Okay. But Windows runs on it.
Yeah, Windows ARM. So there's a different Windows. It's Windows ARM, and then it runs on it really well. And the apps which aren't made for Windows ARM, it has a translation layer. So Tailscale is not there for Windows ARM, but there's a Tailscale Windows app, but it translates it, so I can run Tailscale on my ARM laptop. And most of there's, I think, GIMP. GIMP, I think, is ARM native for Windows ARM, and there are several applications which are ARM native, like Edge is ARM native, Slack, Zoom is ARM native. So there's a lot of applications which are ARM native, but the others which are not, most of them run really well with the translation layer with a 20% overhead, but I don't care because it's 12 cores, 3.4 gigahertz.
Well, it looks like they have a Debian build. They have an ARMbian build.
Yes, they're working on it.
Okay.
They're working on it. Yeah, see you, Colin.
Bye all.
But I don't think there's full support yet. I've been tracking this. Someone in Ubuntu who is working on it. Ubuntu forums. They're working on the exact same laptop I have. Exact same chip. But yeah, the progress isn't there complete. So they say they can do many things on it, but it's not feature complete yet.
And then there were two. I think that means we should probably wrap it up. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that in the future. That's an interesting piece of hardware. I kind of got lost there looking at the tech specs.
Yeah, it's a really good piece of hardware. Software is improving both on Windows and on Linux. Linux side is a little bit slower because getting patches into kernel takes time. So it's not like, okay, you have support immediately. It's like takes time both for developers and also to upstream it into the mainline kernel. So over the next year, hopefully, maybe I can develop support for it, or if someone develops, I can use their distro. So
yeah, that's cool. All right, Steve's very own. He wasn't in the show because he's always cooking now at this time of the hour. So he says, but he does live streams multiple times through the week, and he does have one tomorrow morning, typically at around 8:30 a.m. Central. So you can check that out. Then he has fun little OBS effects that he can mess with them. My favorite is the fart. It makes me laugh every time because I am and always will be 12 years old. Linux User Space, they'll be covering the Rust controversy, which we kind of avoided tonight because we just did. And also Trina's Technobabble. If you haven't, she didn't join, but she's been in the stream. She's a part of a stream tomorrow, Days Vintage Apple Tech. Check that out. We're a bunch of tech enthusiasts of a vintage persuasion get together and work on things on stream. So you can check that out tomorrow. I have a website called keepwilling.com. I do things. I recently did an article about my framework faux pas, so you can check that out. I sometimes write things when I have the time. Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. Check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. And thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation both here in Zoom or on YouTube, as well as everyone who watches the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us not only to have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time.